The headline here, the paywall prevents me from reading the article. But New York Times says why police can stop drivers with air fresheners hanging in their cars. This is rationale. This is, oh, guess what? We come up with a reason. You didn't think there was a reason because it was like, oh, because I got an air freshener. Is that why you pulling me over? Because I got an air freshener? It's a warrant for you stealing $800. Remember when you pistol whipped a woman and you stole $800 out of her bra? Yeah, that was the reason you got a warrant for your arrest, Dante Wright. And then Portland police identifies officer involved in deadly Lynch Park shooting. Riot declared in Portland. What the fuck is going on, America? I mean, okay, we're sick and tired of the fucking police, but there's a crime wave, okay? Why are all these fucking criminals all over the fucking place? And is it time to, finally get the America that we all deserve, the America that where we all have what? We all get 10 acres. Let's get some land reform. Let's go ahead and get the homeless, some housing. Let's get justice. Let's make sure that we have a criminal justice system and a police force that actually enforces justice. Are we going to get a democracy with instant runoff voting? Are we going to end the wars? Is that what all this is about? Is that what all this is about? Because if all this is about you just want to, go loot or what the fuck ever, people need to stop being fucking criminal. Police need to stop being criminal. We need to start treating each other better. And the New York Times is going to justify why the police can stop drivers with air fresheners hanging in their cars. You cannot stop a driver with air freshener in their what are you talking about? The little tiny... I mean, is it like a million of them that's like obstructing their fucking view? If it's one little fucking little green, little tree, it smells winter green or whatever, winter greenific, fantastic. It makes the, what are you talking about? What the fuck? To me, it sounded like Dante Wright just made that shit up. Maybe driving while black. That sounds. He just pulled me over for some bullshit. He just pulled me over for some dumb shit. But, I got air fresheners, so, why are you pulling him over? Oh, fuck. We got an A12650. What's going on at the intersection of, 5th and Main? Well, what's going on? What is this? Subject, because, we're all subject. Subject has air fresheners in his car. Oh, fucking shit. Get the goddamn, SWAT patrol. Call the ATF. Make sure we get the goddamn National Guard in this. We need the Navy and the, the Marines and the Army. We need to got every single, all hands on deck. This motherfucker's got an air freshener. You cannot pull, you gotta have a good reason to, so cops can kill people and there could be a dead body and people say, that's not probable cause of a crime. And then somebody could say, well, I was fucking with Duke because he had air fresheners. Well, good enough reason for me. Fun. And then you got Joe fucking Biden. The people are, floating the idea that he's the next LBJ. Joe Biden came and become president. Integrated America, right? LBJ, FDR, Abraham Lincoln, right? He liberated the slaves. FDR, brand new deal, right? We're going to have a brand new deal for America. But he passed the $1,400 things and then the DACA and the Keystone Pipeline. Okay, couple little tiny victories. I guess the big thing is you got the, fucking psycho out, but that's, in terms of policy, it's pretty much identical policy. Only you don't have the fucking crazy tweets. Okay, so we're not going to die by nuclear warfare because, we got a president that likes to pop off at the mouth. That's about the only change. Nothing's going to fundamentally change. This is not even close. This is 100 fucking days and they haven't done shit. A $1,400 check, the DACA thing, the Yemen thing, like they started to do stuff and they're not even following up with some of the shit. So DACA and Keystone, is any of that even, and then $1,400, once that's spent, it's gone. I think when I think about like the stuff that Joe Biden campaigned on, the progressive things, he campaigned on a $15 minimum wage. He campaigned on a public option. He campaigned on that. You would think that we would get what he campaigned on. He promised us that he said he wasn't going to build the damn wall, right? And yet, you know, there's still kids in cages. Yemeni genocide. Promised that he was going to stop that. Still going on. So, you know, even the progressive, the few tiny morsel progressive issues that he had promised, we're not even getting those things. The Yemeni genocide, he promised he'd get out. Public option, he promised he was going to get us that $15 minimum wage. He promised that we were going to... What the fuck? We can't even get the shit that the few little tiny breadcrumbs, progressive breadcrumb morsels that he promised. And he can do so much fucking shit by pen. He can forgive student debt by pen. He can undo the Patriot Act by pen. He can repeal, you know, so much shit. And it's actually just smart politics. Do the executive order, and whether or not, you know, it's the color of law, it's not real law, but it's saying this is the direction you want the country to go in. Well, this is supposed to be an Arabian Nights story. I think I will carry on with Arabian Nights, because, you know, just because the world gets you down, just because people want to, you know, cops want to fuck people over for air fresheners, criminals want to get away with their fucking crimes, Biden wants to, you know, not really do the big, bold, progressive shit that America needs. He won't even do the little tiny morsel, the crumbs. People, I don't even know how the fuck you could say that this is a victory. It only looks like a victory if you didn't want shit to change. You didn't want shit to change, and then, hey, here's a couple things. Well, he did the thing, you know, he did the thing, and it's slightly different, and it's, well, why aren't you happy with it? What do you mean? You're fucking happy with it because you're a conservative motherfucker. Progressive, to progress, to move forward. So I'm going to move forward. That was my introduction. And I'm just going to read this, and then let's talk about, you know, the further adventures of the Fisherman and the Genie. The Fisherman, being resolved to follow the Genie's advice, forebore casting in his nets a second time and returned to the town very well satisfied. So the Genie said, here's a lake. You can fish in it, and you'll get all the fish that you need, and you can sell the fish, make all the money, but you can only fish one time. Cast your net in one time, get the fish that you can. Do not cast your nets in a second time. And so that's what he did. He cast his net in, got a shit ton of fish, and then the fisherman goes to the Sultan's palace to sell his fish, to offer his fish for sale. And the Sultan was very much pleased. He was very much surprised when he saw the 4 fish. Here's 4 fish. The fisherman presented the Sultan with 4 fish. And I guess they had different colors, all different colors. He took them up one after another and viewed them with attention. After having admired them a long time, he said to his vizier, take these fish and carry them to the cook. I am sure that they must be as good as they are beautiful, and give the fisherman 400 pieces of gold. So the fisherman just got 400 pieces of gold for 4 fish. The fisherman, who had never seen so much money, could scarcely believe his good fortune, but thought the whole must be a dream, until he found it otherwise by being able to provide necessities for his family. As soon as the cook had cleaned the fish, she put them upon the fire in a frying pan with oil, and when she thought them fried enough on one side, she turned them upon the other. Just how you cook a fish, right? You cook on one side, you cook it on the other. But miracle of miracles, scarcely were they turned when the wall of the kitchen divided, and a young lady of wondrous beauty entered through the opening. She was clad in flowered satin, with pendants in her ears, a necklace of large pearls about her throat, and bracelets of gold set with rubies about her wrist, and with a rod in her hand. So this cook is just cooking up a fish, and then out of nowhere, the wall of the kitchen opens, and this beautiful woman with all these ornaments walks in with a rod. She's got a rod in her hand. Spare the rod, spoil the child, right? So I guess that's... Wait, Okay, so she moved toward the frying pan, to the great amazement of the cook, who continued to be transfixed by the sight, and striking one of the fish with the end of the rod, she said, "Fish! Fish! Are you in duty?" The fish having answered nothing, she repeated these words, "Fish! Fish! Are you in duty?" And then the 4 fish lifted up their heads, and they replied, "Yes, yes, if you reckon, we reckon. If you pay your debts, we pay ours. If you fly, we overcome and are content." As soon as they had finished these words, the lady overturned the frying pan and returned into the open part of the wall, which closed immediately and became as it was before. The cook was greatly frightened at what had happened, but recovering somewhat, she stooped to take up the fish that had fallen on the hearth, only to find them blacker than coal, and not fit to be carried to the Sultan. "Alas," said she, "what will become of me? If I tell the Sultan what I have seen, I am sure he will not believe me, and he will be greatly angered with me." While she was thus bewailing herself, the Grand Vizier entered Jafar and asked her if the fish were ready. She told him all that had occurred, which we may easily imagine caused him to be astonished. But without speaking a word of it to the Sultan, he invented an excuse that satisfied him. And sending immediately for the fisherman, bade him 4 more such fish, which the fisherman promised to do on the morrow. So, yeah, shit, if you're the cook, what do you do? I swear, this woman busted in here, pointed the rod at the fish, asked them what their duty was, and they said that, you know, they had a little, "Yes, yes, if you reckon, we reckon. If you pay your debts, we pay ours. If you fly, we overcome and are content." They had a little speech. And then you think that the beautiful woman was going to save the fish, but no, she just, you know, overturned the thing. It's on the hearth, and they're blacker than coal, so she burnt the damn fish up, you know, to where it's unedible. Nobody can eat the damn fish now. The Grand Vizier entered, asked, "Hey, are the fish ready?" You know, like on cue. Just immediately, as soon as that bullshit happened, you got Jafar right there asking, "So what the hell is the cook going to do?" The cook's a woman, so that's progressive, right? She told him everything that had occurred, which we may easily imagine caused him to be astonished, but without speaking a word of it to the Sultan, the Grand Vizier invented an excuse that satisfied him, and sending immediately for the fisherman, bade him bring 4 more such fish, which the fisherman promised to do on the morrow. "All right, go get you 4 fish, and we'll do this tomorrow." Accordingly, the fisherman threw in his nets early the next morning, took 4 fish like the former, and brought them to the vizier at the hour appointed. The minister took them himself, carried them to the kitchen, and shut himself up with the cook. She cleaned them and put them on the fire, as she had done with the 4 others the day before. And when they were fried on one side, she turned them upon the other, and the Grand Vizier became a witness to the same events as the cook had narrated to him. "This is too wonderful and extraordinary," said the Grand Vizier, "to be concealed from the Sultan. I should inform him of this miracle." The Sultan, being much surprised, sent immediately for the fisherman and said to him, "Friend, cannot you bring me 4 more such fish?" The fisherman replied, "If your majesty will be pleased to allow me until tomorrow, I will do it." On the morrow he caught 4 more fish and brought them to the Sultan, who was so much rejoiced he ordered the fisherman 400 pieces of gold. The Sultan had the fish carried into his closet with all that was necessary for frying them. Just put all that in my closet. In your closet? Yeah, the frying pan, everything's in the closet. Just put the fish in the closet. After having shut himself up with the vizier, the minister put them into the pan. When they were fried on one side, turned them upon the other. Then the wall of the closet opened, but instead of the young lady, there came out a black, in the habit of a slave and of a gigantic stature, with a great green staff in his hand. There came out a black. I feel like it's like a cover for some racism, so, you know, I guess I'll tolerate it. Out came a black is better than out came an N-word. But in the habit of a slave, gigantic stature, in the habit of a slave, you just saw the person. How do you know what their habits are? Whatever. Okay, so you have the fish, put him in his closet, right? Having shut himself up with the vizier, the minister put them into the pan, and when they were fried on one side, turned them on the other. The wall of the closet opened, okay? And instead of a young lady, you got a black man. A black man appears. And he's got a big green staff in his hand. He advanced toward the pan, touching one of the fish with his staff. He said in a terrible voice, "Fish, are you in your duty?" Same question, right? Fish, are you in your duty? Like, are you doing your duty? Are you in your duty? And if the fish had been alive the whole time, and it's like, you know, they didn't answer the first time, it took 2 times that, "Fish, are you in your duty?" We're about to be killed. You think we should? Nah, no, we cannot let the humans know that us animals all speak to each other. This is a secret we must, it doesn't matter if it, even if it may require us to die. And then eventually the second time, "Okay, shit, am I in my duty? Yeah, I'm in my fucking duty. Right. You're supposed to come here, do the thing, and right, I'm in my duty. I know the plan. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up already." About the plan. So the black man asked the fish, "Are you in your duty?" In these words, the fish raise their heads and says, yes, we are. If you reckon, we reckon. If you pay your debts, we pay ours. And if you fly, we overcome and are content. The fish had no sooner finished these words than the black threw the pan into the middle of the closet and reduced the fish to a coal. Having done this, he retired fiercely and entering again into the aperture. It's a beautiful word, aperture. I have to learn that. What is aperture? It closed and the wall appeared just as it did before. "After what I have seen," said the Sultan to the vizier, "it would not be possible for me to be easy. These fish, without doubt, signify something extraordinary." He sent for the fisherman, and on hearing where the fish had been caught, he commanded all his court to take horse, and the fisherman to take horse. "All right, everybody, take horse, and let's go see what's going on over there." The fishermen served them for a guide. They all ascended the mountain, and at the foot of it they saw, to their great surprise, a vast plain that nobody had observed till then. And at last they came to the lake, which they found to be situated betwixt 4 hills, just as the fisherman had described. So the Sultan needs to, I need to know this lake. I need it for these, you know, tropical, beautiful, tropical colored fish, beautiful tropical colored fish right here in my kingdom. How come I didn't know about this? Take me to this lake. Take me to the lake that has these beautiful fish. So they all ascended the mountain. At the foot of it they saw, to their great surprise, a vast plain that nobody had observed till then. And at last they came to the lake, which they found to be situated betwixt 4 hills, as the fisherman had described. The water was so transparent that they observed all the fish to be exactly like those which the fisherman had brought to the palace. The Sultan stood upon the bank of the lake, beholding the fish with admiration, on his demanding of his courtiers if it were possible that they had never seen this lake, which was within so short a distance of the town. They all answered that they had never so much as heard of it. Since you all agree that you never heard of it, and I am no less astonished than you are at this novelty, I am resolved not to return to my palace till I learn how this lake came here, and why all the fish in it are of 4 colors. Having spoken thus, he ordered his court to encamp, and immediately his pavilion and the tents of his household were planted upon the banks of the lake. Resolved to withdraw alone from the camp to discover the secret of the portents that so disturbed his mind, the Sultan bade his grand vizier inform the court that illness accounted for his absence until such time as he should return. The grand vizier endeavored to divert the Sultan from his design, but all to no purpose. The Sultan was resolved. He put on a suit fit for walking and took his scimitar. The Sultan is carrying a scimitar. Is that the same thing as the death, you know, the sickle? Is a scimitar a sickle? Hey, give me my sickle. I'm going on my walk. And as soon as he found that all was quiet in the camp, he went out alone. As the sun arose, he saw before him at a considerable distance a vast building of black polished marble, covered with fine steel, as smooth as glass. I'm thinking, okay, you found a vast building of black polished marble covered with fine steel. How did you know it was black marble if it was covered with steel? But I guess it's just, translation. So you got a beautiful big building that's made of steel, smooth as glass, made of black polished marble. Being highly pleased that he had so speedily met with something worthy of his curiosity, he advanced toward the gate, which was partially open. Though he might immediately have entered, though he thought it best to knock, this he did again and again, but no one appearing, he was exceedingly surprised. At last he entered, and when he came within the porch, he cried, "Is there no one here to receive a stranger who comes in for some refreshment as he passes by?" But though the Sultan had spoke very loud, he wasn't answered. The silence increased his astonishment. I mean, that has to be insane, right? You just found this beautiful lake. You just found this beautiful building. You walked into the building. Nobody's saying nothing. Nobody's here. Nobody's around. And then he came into a spacious court. He looked on every side for inhabitants, discovered nobody. And then he entered several grand halls, which were hung with silk tapestry. The alcoves and sofas being covered with the stuffs of Mecca. So I guess Mecca is not just the homeland or whatever, but it's the alcoves and sofas being covered with stuffs of Mecca. So beautiful, right? Big grand halls. You got silk and alcoves and sofas and the stuff of Mecca. The porches had the richest stuffs of India with silver and gold. So you got silver and gold and all the riches. Just beautiful. He came into a superb saloon, in the middle of which was a fountain and a lion of solid gold at each angle. So a saloon, a fountain, gold lions, the castle. On three sides was encompassed by a garden with parterres of flowers and shrubberies. Parterres. And to complete the beauty of the place, an infinite number of birds filled the air with their harmonious notes. The Sultan walked from apartment to apartment, where he found everything rich and magnificent. Being tired with walking, he sat down in a veranda, which had a view over the garden. Suddenly he heard the voice of one complaining in lamentable tones. He listened with attention and heard these words: "O fortune, thou who wouldst not suffer me long to enjoy a happy lot, forbear to persecute me, and by a speedy death put an end to my sorrows." The Sultan rose up, advanced toward the place whence came the voice, and opening the door of a great hall, pushed aside a curtain. A handsome young man, richly habited, was seated upon a throne. Richly habited? Nah, he has the habits of a slave. He's got the habits of a rich person. So he's an arrogant, snobby fuck? Is that what the habits of a... Melancholy was depicted on his countenance. The Sultan drew near and saluted him. The young man returned his salutation by an inclination of his head, at the same time saying, "My lord, I should rise to receive you, but I am hindered by sad necessity, and therefore hope you will not be offended." "My lord," replied the Sultan. So the prince, right, the handsome young man, maybe the prince. But the man that's in the fucking, this mansion, this rich-ass, black marbled, polished steel mansion, whatever is... "Sultan, I am much obliged to you for having so good an opinion of me." Yeah, exactly. He's like, "Oh, man, I hope you like me. I trespassed, and I'm kind of being nosy, actually, and just being a nosy motherfucker, seeing what the fuck this shit's about. But thank you for respecting me. I appreciate that, So he's much obliged to you for having so good an opinion of me. As to the reason for your not rising, whatever your apology be, I heartily accept it. Being drawn hither by your complaints, I come to offer you my help. Would to God that it lay in my power to ease you of your trouble. Relate to me the history of your misfortunes, but inform me first of the meaning of the lake near the palace, where the fish are of 4 colors. To whom belongs this castle? How came you to be here? Why you are alone? Instead of answering these questions, the young man began to weep bitterly. How inconstant is fortune, cried he. She takes pleasure to pull down those she has raised. How is it possible that I should grieve and my eyes be inexhaustible fountains of tears? At these words, lifting up his robe, he showed the Sultan that he was a man only from the head to the girdle, and that the other half of his body was black marble. You may easily imagine that the Sultan was much surprised when he saw the deplorable condition of the young man. That which you show me, said he, while it fills me with horror, excites my curiosity, so that I am impatient to hear your history, and I'm persuaded that the lake and the fish make some part in it. Therefore I conjure you to relate it. I will not refuse your request, replied the young man, though I cannot comply without renewing my grief. Thereupon he narrated. And that's the end of that story. The next one, the story of the young king of the Black Isles. So I'm going to assume that that's the young king of the Black Isles. And now we're going to hear another story. And so it just goes from one story to the next story. The very beginning of Arabian Nights is, it starts out as a pretty fantastic little tale. There's the king of Tartary, and it goes on for, this is happening and that's happening, but eventually it gets to a king that just distrusts all women. The king distrusts all women, and so he keeps on marrying a new woman and then asks her a question or whatever, and then as soon as he's not satisfied with her, kills her and then marries another one. Well, this king that just keeps marrying women, not liking them, killing them, because that's the only way he could trust them, right, I guess, if, he just, I don't know, but has the fear, I don't know, but he's terrorizing the town. He's terrorizing his kingdom. Nobody's standing up to any of this bullshit. He's the fucking king, and this is the shit that he's pulling. So nobody knows what to do. And then you have a woman that says, I got a plan. I know so many great stories, and I'm going to take a risk. And so she takes a risk, and she gets in the room with the Sultan, I think the Sultan, and says, hey, I'll be a good wife, I'll be dutiful. She has the friend come in to say, hey, tell me a good story. You know all those stories. You're the, lady with all the stories. And it's like, oh, I am the lady with all the stories. Let me start you out on one story. She starts out with one story, and then she gets to the end, just like with this story, doesn't really end it. And it's kind of like, well, if you want to know what happens next, then, let me live for tonight. And then tomorrow I'll tell you the story tomorrow. And the king is so enthralled by this, he says, okay, you're the queen of the storytellers, I'll listen to you. And so he goes, and he, comes back. And the title is Arabian Nights, 1001 Arabian Nights, 1001 Arabian Nights. Which, if it's related to that story, because that's how it begins, that's Genesis, right? That's how the 1001 Arabian Nights stories begin. My assumption is that's a story every night, so there's 1001 stories, and so that's, 1001 Arabian Nights is 3 years. For 3 years, this woman is going to tell this Sultan all these different stories. And so we're hearing all these different stories. I'm hoping we can get, a nice, I love, like, the Death's Messenger, Grimm's Fairy Tale, Death's Messengers. That's one of the best stories ever. It's a Grimm fairy tale. You also got The Emperor Wears No Clothes. You have Aesop's Fables, which is on this side. Aesop's Fables on this side. Arabian Nights on this side. It's fantastic and, written very simply. So anybody, next it's got a lot of smart stuff in it. So yeah, I'll talk about the Fisherman. Let's talk about the story that I just now read. So, in saying that you have all this magic shit, it kind of feels like Lost to me. They just kind of keep throwing and adding shit onto it, right? A beautiful woman comes in and checks on the fish, and it checks the fish, right, but ruins it. Says, are you on your duty? Flips the shit over. A black man comes in. He basically does the same shit, puts it in the closet or whatever, and, overcooks the fish. Now, nobody can eat the fish. I don't know what aperture and scimitar, in the habit of a slave, in the habit of a rich man. I don't know exactly what they're saying there. It is insane that the Sultan is like, what is this lake? What is this mansion? There's like a luxurious Michael Jordan mansion So I was, pretty enthralled. I'm reading this story, and I'm kind of like, what the fuck is going on, right? You got this beautiful lake with all this damn beautiful